You're listening to the Bleach Brothers podcast, hosted by B-Word and Jake.
What's up, Jake? It's B-Word. How are you tonight?
What's up, Ponchone? What is it?
Oh, there it is.
Pachobi.
There it is.
Yeah, you're my
Ponchone, man.
Ponchone. Sorry, I keep saying poncho.
What is a pachobi? Like, where exactly are you getting this from?
Remember when I said I don't have a linguistic tongue? I don't.
Well, yeah.
It
actually sounds like you have an extra set of lips.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I got a ponchobi going on for you.
Yeah, I got a chubby for you. That's what I know.
See, now you got gross. See, I'm talking about a pachobi, and you're over here talking about a chubby.
So when I was a kid, I was sitting at the dinner table with my dad and my uncles, and I was probably, I don't know, 7 or 8, somewhere in there, and they're talking about something that I didn't know what it was, right? And so all of a sudden, I start hearing the word chubby. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And I think I just listened to something or just watched a movie or whatever. And so here's 7 or 8-year-old me at the dinner table with my dad and my uncles. And I'm like, home chubby. I remember that to this day. Everybody was laughing. I don't even know why I said it.
Speaking of chubbies, is there certain nicknames for those monikers that you just don't like? Like if somebody I hate when people say cheers. Like at the end of something, like, oh, have a great day. Oh, cheers. It's like, you're not British, dude. We're in America. Like,
I actually don't mind cheers. I don't mind cheers. I think that there's certain things that you say, like, especially in emails, like I look forward to your response, really just means that you better respond to this email, bitch. Right? So there's certain things like that I just don't like. But in general conversation, I kind of like things that are unique, to be honest with you. So if you throw something unique at me, I'm actually probably more susceptible to react to it or at least acknowledge it than I am with have a good day. You know what I mean?
Right. Like I hate on emails, like work emails. I used to, when girls would put salante at the end of it, that basic white bitch thing that they put on something.
They would put what at the end of it?
Sliante, Silante, I think.
What the hell is that?
I don't know. I don't know what it means. I just see it at the lot of here. I gotta figure this out. We got smartphones for a reason, right? Let's see what this says.
Well,
it says,
my gosh,
it
Salante.
means health in Irish. Slainty. I don't know how to say it. You're asking a guy that just says he can't speak in other tongues to pronounce a word.
Man.
Slainty. Is it S-A?
First off, I have never received an email where at the end of it said Salante or Slinty or
I get a lot of emails that say Slainty or Slanty or it's Slainte. So Slainty. And there's a little thing over the A. I don't know. Okay, but see why it annoys me? I can't even say it. So when somebody's like, Jake, please do your job, Slainty, whoever's name. I'm like, I don't know what that word is. I just looked up what it means. I feel dumb. You just made me feel dumb.
This is one of those days that, I wish we had the more you know rainbow above us, with LeVar Burton. So that way, because I've literally never heard of that until this conversation, and I don't know who you're emailing out of Ireland. I don't know if there's some
I'm not. That's
Irish
what I'm talking about.
brothel or something that you're emailing back and forth. But this is a bit much, dude.
If it was an Irish person, I'd be happy, but it's not. It's just some ass that's like, oh yeah, slanty, and you're just like, God, I don't know, or it's like that quote, like every girl likes live, laugh, love, right? Or the one that they always say, the crazy white bitch one, that's if you can't handle me at my best, you don't belong, or my worst, you can't deserve me at my best.
Can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
You suck. That's the type of girl. That's the type of girl that has pictures of martinis in her studio apartment by herself with her cat, and she idolizes Marilyn Monroe. And then you realize she's got a chest tattoo and daddy issues and all these other problems. That's a Jake take,
exactly.
It all started with Slanty, and then we went to a horrible girl alone in an apartment.
Well, so it really is like the you can't handle, if you can't handle me at my best, you don't deserve me at my worst, or vice versa. If you can't do, if whatever it says, right? Whatever the basic bitch saying is. I love the the Ned Flanders off of The Simpsons quote with where it says, "If you can't handle me at my diddliest, you don't deserve me at my doodliest."
And this is why you still call it a chubby, Brian.
Exactly.
You're over here dip doodling yourself. Diddly doo, neighborito.
Oh
my god!
I love Ned
on
Flanders.
this really quick, because you watched The Simpsons as a kid. I don't watch it really much anymore. Which character were you?
Oh, I don't know, man. I have to be honest. I always was pretty fond of Bart Simpson, because when it came out, I was probably right around Bart Simpson's age, and I could never skateboard. Like, it was never something that I had a talent to do. And so, the fact that he was always skateboarding around was cool. So I'd say Bart Simpson, but I think now if I'm going to compare myself to a character of The Simpsons now, I relate to Homer quite a bit, to be honest with you. But who do you relate to?
Scratchy the cat.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, some big ass dirty pussy. I totally see that of you.
No, I meant that. The only other one is Mo. I was always a big fan of Mo, the angry bartender.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Who's the guy that shows up at the bar?
Barney. Barney's fun, but I know I'm not Barney. I have some friends that are Barney.
I feel like Barney on Fridays when I meet my buddies down at the brewery every week. So.
See, I feel like Mo's Tavern. Oh, hold him a groin, whatever. That's who I feel like. Anyways, I don't know. Well, the cool thing about Bart was his pranks. He
had great pranks.
He did. He pulled a lot. I mean, I don't know. He was that kid I think everybody wanted to be. You know when you watch a show and everybody wants to be that person? And I think the main reason is he was the cool kid, right? The spiky hair, could skateboard. He pulled pranks. He did all the stuff that we wanted to do as kids and could get away with it unless Homer was choking him.
Right.
So could you skateboard for one?
No, I couldn't skateboard.
All right. Did you have the cool spiky hair?
I did have the cool spiky hair.
I know you had, okay, so you got 1 out of 2 so far. I know you had good grades, so you couldn't be him in school, and your dad didn't choke you like that.
Wait. First off, no, my dad didn't choke me like that, but he could have, right? And my grades, I mean, they were decent, right? I graduated high school, right? And so, like, that happened. But to this day, Bart still hasn't graduated high school, so I don't know that you can compare that.
No, but I mean, okay, you weren't Bart failing. That's what I mean. So at least you can't be on that level, right? I mean, you weren't a Millhouse. Right. You weren't Bart. You weren't a failure. Okay.
Right.
So you don't have that one. So you're 1 for 3. Did you have the prank level?
Oh, buddy, I play pranks like nobody's business.
Like, did you grow out of it, or you? All right. So give me some examples.
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh no. So I'm a big prankster, and this is how I'm known in my friend group. I mean, you and I've known this for a long time. But really, anybody who gets to know me knows that at some point you're probably going to be pranked. And while not all of them are receptive, most of them are freaking hilarious. And so if I can, man, I actually recently played a prank on some buddies. Can I tell you about it?
Of course, yeah.
So I'm on Instagram one day.
Okay.
And on whatever page I'm on Instagram, they shared a meme, and it was by Dicks by Mail, right? And so I think it was right around Valentine's Day. And so Dicks by Mail had this meme that you can send a chocolate penis to somebody anonymously. And I'm like, I have a select few people that I want to send that to. And so I got on the Dicks, dude. I got on the Dicks by Mail to send this 8-inch sucker off. Were you on your work
computer, or were you?
No. This was on my cell phone. So I got on Dicks by Mail to find out that all of these big ass chocolate dicks were sold out. And so I'm like, well, that's unfortunate, right? Because this would be really cool.
What a tragedy. There's no more chocolate dicks in the world for you.
I'm telling you, man, there's the commodities market is crazy right now, right? Wood prices are through the roof.
Did you just put chocolate dicks in the same category of commodity items in American?
Bro, you have chocolate dicks, gasoline, and 2x4s, right? These are the essentials these are the essentials, man. And so I wasn't able to buy these dicks, right? I wasn't able to buy the dicks. So, but I'm on the website, and I find a plethora of penis accessories, dude. Like, and I'm not talking about cock rings. I'm talking about you can have Father's Day cards where you would open up the card and you are showered with glitter dicks, right?
Oh my God, I am like, this is eye-opening to me.
you could send somebody anonymously a bag of gummy dicks with a note that says chew on a bag of dicks. Like, it's amazing, right? So
Okay,
great
so this is a
prints.
good site. Okay, I'm getting down with this.
Yeah, it's definitely worthwhile, and it's also worthwhile to note that Dicks by Mail is not paying us to talk about this. This is a legitimate prank, and so when I went on there, I saw a good amount of ideas that I really wanted to play on some buddies of mine, and so I came across this.
Can I just be thankful for one thing? I'm going to make you shut your ear and yap for a second and interrupt you. So
Okay,
they essentially, I'm glad you didn't get this as an ad. Because you know how Instagram has ads.
Yeah,
like, you would.
Yeah.
Because if you would have started this story saying I was scrolling through and I had a promotional ad shop come up for dicks, I'd been like, it's like that story in Superbad when he's like, I can't stop drawing penises. I would have looked at you as my fat friend and been like, why do you have so much penises in your advertisement?
Right.
Anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry. I just
by
had
the
to
way,
point that
just
out.
just a sidetrack from your sidetrack.
Okay.
His explanation, so Jonah Hill's character in Superbad, his explanation of drawing dicks is some of the funniest comedy I've seen in movies, because he's talking about the big veiny ones, the big hairy ones. I just think it's funny.
You're going to go down this road. You just talked about gummies and chocolate and glitter dicks. You're the same guy.
Yeah. Glitter dicks, dude. That's all I'm saying.
Dicks, bro.
So I'm going through the different pages of dick pranks to do.
The dick page. Okay.
And I find tire stems, right? So everybody who has a car, we've all got tires, right? We've all got the little cap that we all lose when we're checking the air in our tires. And so I'm looking at these and I'm like, okay, okay, this might be a fun prank.
This is the dick for you,
and
is
so,
what you're saying. This was
right. And so this is like I said, this is right around Valentine's Day this year that I come across this. So I store that in the mental bank, right? I'm like, okay, that's for later. I'll probably try to do this.
Do you hear hold on? Do you hear yourself talking? You stored dick in the brain. Okay, I know we're not trying to be like too like childish here, but like this. All right, anyways, go ahead.
My brain is off limits unless you have mud boots. Like, I'm just going to tell you right now, you can't walk around in my brain unless you have prophylactics on your feet. So, so long story short, a buddy of mine comes into my office and he destroys my desk. Now, backstory on this: I work for his wife, who's also a really good friend of mine, and so she knew that he was going to come in and just completely destroy my desk. And some things that he's done over the course of probably the last year is he has taken a stuffed bunny and he's taped its hands into a position on a big old highlighter to look like he's holding his pee-pee, right? Okay. He has left little notes all over the place. Probably the worst prank that he did was toward the end of last summer. Or I say worst for me, really good for him because it got me good. Toward the end of last summer, he ended up going to my work calendar, and he pulled out the month of October. Now, here's why that's significant, because I actually had a few doctor's appointments that I had scheduled in October, and the motherfucker took my October calendar right out of my hanging wall calendar. So as I get to the month of October, right, I know I have appointments and little stickers on my little calendar, and I go from September to November, and I'm like, I think I sat there and I flipped it like 2 or 3 times to see what I missed, right? Like, this doesn't look right. And my coworker, whose desk is right next to mine, hands me the month of October and goes, here, Steve wants you to have this. And I'm like, son of a bitch, right?
Right.
So I knew, out of all the motherfuckers that I know, that my buddy Steve needed to have a prank pulled on him.
Okay.
Well, my buddy Steve goes out and he buys a Ford Mustang GT, right?
Oh,
and this is a white Ford Mustang GT. Right? And he's got these bright blue rims, and this car is his baby. And so I buy blue tire dicks, is what they're called on the website, tire dicks with a Z, from dicksbymail.com. And then I buy 2 red ones because I have another friend named Steven who drives a red Camaro. And then I had a third guy who I was going to prank, which it didn't work out that way, but it ended up turning out to be a good prank on my buddy Rick's Dodge Ram, which is also red. And so I bought these suckers, I think, in late February. Mind you, I had looked in February to buy these right before Valentine's Day. Toward the end of February, I ended up buying 3 sets of dicks, right? Yes, Jake, I bought 3 sets of dicks. And so I just stored these, right? Well, I couldn't find an opportune time for everybody whose vehicle needed to be there to be in the same place that I can place the dicks. And so I ended up including all the wives. And I said, hey, check it out. Here's what I need to do. I need there to be some sort of gathering, some sort of get-together where these guys can all have their vehicles there, and then I can replace the dicks. Well, sure enough, this happened last Friday. So last Friday night, we go to my friend Aubrey's house for dinner, or quote-unquote dinner, and I was quote-unquote late because I had to get beer or whatever their excuse was. And everybody's in the backyard while I'm out putting dicks on everybody's cars.
Right.
And it was beautiful because we stayed in the backyard until it was dark, and I took off, and they took off, and nobody noticed dicks, right?
Right.
So the next day, my buddy Steve's got his Mustang in his garage, and he has passed by his Mustang probably 50 times, and his wife keeps telling me he keeps passing his car, and he hasn't noticed the dicks. And so all day long, I'm getting this text message. Well, so my friend Rick is driving all around town with dicks on his car. He stops at the casino for breakfast. He goes out to Lowe's. He's doing all this sort of stuff with dicks on his car, right? And so he comes home, still doesn't know that there's any dicks. So finally, my buddy Steve, with his Mustang in his garage, he passes by his Mustang. Right there is my friend Katie's looking on. And he goes, what the fuck is that? He goes, damn it, Brian, fuck off, blah, blah, blah. And so Katie ends up calling me, and she's got tears in her eyes. She is laughing hysterical. I call my buddy Steve, or I talk with my buddy Steve, and of course, amidst the FUs and that was funny, but now I got to get you back and all that sort of stuff, I remind Steve, I said, that's for October, buddy.
That's awesome.
Because you've been planning this for this long? I said, yes, I have. So if you need to play a good prank on somebody, the Dicks by Mail is a great thing to do. I totally recommend it. But to answer your question, Jake, I am known for pranks. And I know that you're pretty good at pranks too. So do you have a good prank that you can talk with us about?
I do. I guess I have a top 3. So one I'll actually admit one that my mom did to me. You know what a jelly bowl is?
No.
So if you fill up a toilet with gelatin, it turns solid. And I went and did my morning routine, and I had to scoop it out. I called my mom, and she laughed. She got me back over years of torture. Because I'm actually not allowed to call my family on April Fool's Day. So one year I convinced my mom, or how it worked was, I called a psychiatric hospital in California. And I asked them if I found one that did evaluations over the phone. And I said, well, I have a mother who's a little crazy. I need an evaluation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get you at, at her worst thing. I'm going to get her hysterical and have you evaluate her that way. So what I did is I went to a concert that night. I was going to see Hollywood Undead. And I texted her and I said, hey, from my phone. And I said, hey, Mom, my phone's dying. I have an emergency. I need you to call me at this number. I will be unreachable on mine. Well, what I prefaced the doctors with, I said, she's going to try to hang up, and whatever you do not let her hang up and let her know that I'm there, and you'll get to me in a minute. So I go to the concert, and I have a blast, and all of a sudden I get out, and I got about 9 voicemails. And my mom calls me and goes, what the hell's your problem? And I go, what do you mean? And she goes, I just spent the last hour and a half worried about you and on the phone with a psychiatrist, and they think I'm crazy. I was like, because you are crazy. Listen to you. So ever since then, I have been banned from talking to my family on April 1st. But I guess with work, my number one is I glitter desked somebody. So there's this guy I work with. I did not like him. I will just be straight up front. If I don't like you, it's a bad day for you. Right. So he tried to play a prank on me. So the first one I did to him was I did a chia grass on his keyboard when he was gone for a month. So I grew grass in his keyboard, right? The simple one. So then he tried to get me back, and he did a bad job. Well, the next one, I wrote the Trump administration because he was, and we're not getting political. Just he was really for Bernie Sanders, which is fine. So he Bernie Sanders my desk as a joke, and he did it to everybody in office. So I actually wrote the Trump campaign and asked for stuff to help me, like promote his message up in the Northwest because it's a more liberal area. And I will admit, the Trump campaign gave me posters and yard signs. They gave me so much stuff. So I trumped his office head to toe, every piece from the ceiling to the floor.
His desk?
I trumped his office, the whole office. Floor to ceiling. I got it. I went into work 2 hours early, did the whole thing, and whenever he came in, it was like everything was trumped. I mean, I got little Trump stickers, I had everything. So then he flipped out, and we got into it. Well, the last one is, I went to a craft store, and I think I spent about $100 in glitter, which that should never happen in life unless you have two occupations, right. Okay? But what I did is I went to his desk, and I opened every drawer, and I just dumped glitter in there. I didn't take anything out. I just dumped glitter in every orifice of his office furniture.
Oh, man.
So when he opened his desk, there was just
classic.
glitter, and he had to reach in to get a stapler or anything. And this wasn't like the typical big. This was like all the cheapest glitter you could get that is sticky and gets everywhere. It makes you sneeze. Oh, yeah. So he was an enemy of mine at work. It was sort of like the Jim versus Dwight, and he came to me at that day covered in glitter. Office. Tried to shake my hand and goes, "I'm done." I said, "Oh, I'm not." And. That's where I got. I'll admit I'm sometimes a little bit of a hateful person, but yeah, I'm one of those people. I don't think you should play a prank on me. I mean, me and you have played pranks on each other, Brian, but I go pretty hard on it. I get really creative.
You go hard in the paint. You go hard in the paint on the pranks. You really do.
Yeah.
But I'm known for pranks, right? I'm known for kind of being jovial, for having kind of a good time, trying to get people laugh, joking around, doing that sort of stuff. Which on the podcast, I tend to be the more serious one of the two of us, but somebody's got to wrangle you in, man. And so, but you have a moniker, and so you're known. You're known primarily in the Pacific Northwest on Twitter and also on local radio and some of that sort of stuff as Jake the Hater, right?
Yes. That's among many other nicknames. Yeah, that's my main nickname up here that is from.
The main two that you have are Jake the Hater and Jake the Tailgater. And right. We'll get into Tailgater here in a minute. But how did you get this moniker? How did you become Jake the Hater? Tell me the story.
Okay, so actually this was given to me from a fan. I call him Kendall Fire. We used to work together. His name's Kendall, and we worked in women's shoes at the time. And a lot of my friends, friends support each other. And so when I was doing guest radio up here for ESPN and Fox Sports and stuff like that, and I would go on the air and just give my take on things. And one day he actually called into the show when I was on. And he goes, "Hey, can I just get into it with Jake the Hater?" And everybody's like, "Oh," and that was new, right? I wasn't called that at the time.
Right.
And I answered him. I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "I've never heard you talk about the teams you like. I only hear you talk about the teams you hate." Now the thing about it is, too, is I have a ranking, but one of my number one teams is the Oregon Ducks, and I live right near them. And I have a lot of personal, deep-seated hate that we can get into one time about why. And I mean, there's a lot of things. I'm not one of those people that just hates a team for no reason. That, Brian. I'm really into it. And I actually have some, legitimate personal reasons for hating them, and then also sports-related. So it just turned into where he called me the hater and called me out. And it was funny because fans that listen to me never knew the teams I liked. They only knew of the teams because I'm the opposite, I guess. I only talk about who I hate. For example, I have an ongoing war with everybody back home. I hate the Golden Knights. I legitimately hate that whole team. I've started the hashtag FTGK for fuck the Golden Knights. Every day they play, I post it. And it's turned into a thing where it's like, I get into it with a lot of people, and it's fun. And I mean, the whole hater things, I guess, started as a joke, and then it just grew into itself. And at first I hated it. I was like, I hated being a hater, right? And
it's not that common of a moniker. I mean, you kind of almost wonder, is this something that you're taking on that you really don't want to, I would imagine.
Well, the thing I was afraid of is, am I going to have to be a character? And I realized at the end of the day, I wasn't really being a character. I was being myself. And I also,
Right.
but I also didn't want to envelop, because you know this. A lot of people know I'm a really nice guy. I'm very friendly. I'm very helpful.
Fuck you are.
Well, not to you, but everybody else.
Shut your Aaron Yap. You are not a nice guy. You
I
are
am.
cordial at best.
Okay, that's
Cordial
fine.
at
That's
best.
what I meant. That's what I thought. That's what I thought being nice was. B word. All right, but side note, no, you know me though. It's like I didn't want to turn into where you like. There's certain people that just turn it on all the time when it's like a thing they have to do, right? Like the tailgater,
Right.
for example, is that's a cooking thing, and that just became just a joke off the name, a riff off the hater. But I also realized, like, why are you going to hate on something and go against something that has helped get you to the level you are, right? And I'm not saying I'm famous by any means, but it's more noticeable, right? People know, like, I mean, last year, I don't know if you were aware, there was a basketball player up here, a Trailblazer, Evan Turner. I was supposed to actually box him for charity. Me and him got into it, and oh yeah, I'll find the article and post it to our socials. But yeah, it was on NBA TV. It was on everything. I talked crap on him on Twitter, and you know me, I don't back down. And I think he was expecting me to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry," or just ignore him. And yeah, for 2 hours, me and him went back and forth, and it turned into such a big deal because I was on the radio and on TV, and he's doing this, where we actually tried to line it up with the Blazers for us to do a charity fight. And I was gonna get whooped. I mean, the guy's like 6'7" and a
you were
professional
get your ass
athlete.
kicked.
Yeah, that's fine. But here's the thing: I would have had fun with it, and I would do anything for charity. Hence, I'd raise some money for some kids, or whatever, whoever needs it, for that. But it didn't happen. Now, do I enjoy all the time having to be a hater? No. Do I turn it on? No. But when I hate something, I go full bore. I mean, legitimately, I'm watching the Knights game right now, right?
Right.
I hate that team with a passion. Everybody's like, well, why, Jake? You're from there. One, you don't put slut dust on a hockey jersey. Okay, you don't put glitter on a hockey jersey. That's a problem. Two, you know this type of person. What type of man still is so in love with his high school and wears his high school ring as a billionaire adult? They're called the Golden Knights because his high school was the Knights. That's like, you had so many other cool names you could have done in Las Vegas. You chose that. Their fan base is the worst and uneducated hockey fans I've ever met. They don't even know what ice is.
Oh man, you're gonna ruffle a bunch of feathers for some of our fans here.
That's the point. And then the fourth thing is they're easily riled, which is great. I mean, I post up a meme, like, what was it tonight? Fucketh thy golden knights or whatever, of a knight yelling that, and like everybody's like going off. But I mean, the other thing is though, is like the argument I have, and I'm not trying to get into sports, because me and you know a lot, and we talk sports a lot, and we said we wouldn't do this, but name an expansion team, Brian, since the 80s that hasn't been good, that has been a new franchise. And there's two reasons for that. One, when you own a business.
Like, that has not been good, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Nope. I deny that. Their first year in season.
Their first year they made the playoffs.
They made it far in the playoffs. Now, here's my point.
Okay.
Is, as a business, the NFL, NHL, whoever it be, why would you want to create another Browns the first year out? It's going to fail miserably. It doesn't matter if you're only good for one season. At least you're good. And the reason you are is you get higher up in the draft. You also usually get to pull players from other teams that are good. The Golden Knights got to pull Fleury as their goalie, one of the greatest goalies in hockey right now. They get him right out the gate. Of course you're going to be good. Your goalie's going to defend almost everything. I mean, the guy's a beast. I'll admit that. When he was on the Penguins when they won the championship, yeah, he's great. That's another problem I have, is the arrogance, because Vegas is the type of city, B-word, when they don't like something, they blow up a building. Okay?
Yeah,
when this team is bad, I am afraid that they are going to just blow it up and nobody's going to be a fan, just like the Coyotes of Phoenix. Nobody goes to those games. When they're bad, it's going to be interesting to see how this team is when they're bad. Because they've only been good and shown success. Like, I heard the stupidest stat on TV the other day. They're like, oh, they've been to the playoffs every year. They've been in existence like 3 years, you idiot.
So okay, so I want to interrupt you here. So obviously you have a strong distaste for the Vegas Golden Knights, right?
Hatred, yes.
And so you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay, and so that's in hockey. Now, your team recently changed its name in the NFL, and I don't know if it's your team because there are rules as you can change teams if significant things happen. But you used to be the former name of the Washington football team. You used to be their fan, right? And this is where you and I, because I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, and so the Washington football team, the Washington football team is not. And so for me, I hate all NFC East teams in the NFL, but the story of how I became a Dallas Cowboys fan in the state of Nevada is actually pretty unique, and it all has to do with the love that my grandmother had for Troy Aikman's butt. Okay, I swear to God, that's really what it is. And so, what happened is on Thanksgiving, when I was a kid, my family, my dad's side of the family, is Native American. Okay, their lineage goes through the Hunkpapa Sioux tribe out of North Dakota, and so we celebrate Native American heritage. We absolutely love a lot to do with the Native Americans. And on this particular Thanksgiving, the Dallas Cowboys were facing, at the time, they were known as the Washington Redskins, and so the white women, if you will, so my mom, my grandmother, my aunt were in the kitchen, and all the guys were in the living room watching the game. And here I was, this little twerp, probably 5 or 6 years old or whatever I was at the time. And I'm going between the living room, where I don't really know what's going on the television, and I'm going between the kitchen. And you know me, dude, I love my food, and I'm smelling good Thanksgiving food, right?
Right.
And so I'm bouncing between, and my grandma says, "Brian, who do you want to win?" And I knew that everybody in the living room was rooting for the Redskins. And so I said, "Well, I want them to win." And my grandma goes, "Brian, I will tell you this right now. If you want to have Thanksgiving food, you will root for the Dallas Cowboys." And so I said, "Okay." Right? And so from that moment on, I became a Dallas Cowboys fan. And I had really no clue as to why until about 10 years ago. Before my grandma passed away, and we were watching a Cowboys football game, and Tony Romo was the quarterback at the time. And my grandma looks right at me and dead ass says, "I really miss Troy Aikman's butt."
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I became a Dallas Cowboys fan because of my grandma's love for Troy Aikman's butt. However, I didn't know that, but here's where I want to transition this conversation.
Well,
I have teams? Okay. Well, no. Go ahead, because I'm going to transition away from it. So if you got something to add to it, go ahead.
The funny thing is I actually have a love of the Redskins because of my grandma.
Oh, really?
And
see, I didn't know that.
The Cowboys from my grandpa my grandma on my dad's side and my grandpa on my mom's side. So, for instance, I'm a third generation American. So my dad's mom was German, and they were Hungarians. And they came over, and she didn't really speak a lick English, right? And I guess when she came over to America, she was in D.C. and took a bus and didn't really speak very well, and was all over town and got lost and got out and wandered into the Redskin Stadium.
Oh, really?
And didn't know where to go, and the affiliates working there or whatever helped her out and helped her find her way and gave her, I guess, some gear or something and talked to her. And so she fell in love with the team because they helped her, become an American, essentially. And so my grandma would cry when the Redskins fight song was on, "Hail to the Redskins." And growing up,
I would probably cry if that went on too.
Yeah, but it's better in the eyes of the Texas, but whatever. So you remember though, in my house, we had the giant Redskin mural painted on the wall.
I did.
You would rub the chin when they scored a touchdown. Well, when I was 4 years old, my family is also Native American partly, and we're Blackfoot. And in my family, they're designated speakers. And surprise, surprise, Brian, I think you will know I am that one for my family. So I used to tell all the stories at the dinner table and everything for, my family. Mm-hmm. And so my papa, I think, saw this as a moment to try to take advantage of the situation. So when I was 4 years old for Christmas, he knew I was a Skins fan because my family was, and he bought me a Cowboy shirt. And my dad was not very happy about this.
Good man. And I've met your grandpa, by the way, too.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the man specifically for that reason.
And he handed me the shirt. I opened it, and I've never been ungrateful for anything in my life, but I blew my nose in it, and I handed him back this Cowboy shirt. And from that day forward, he realized I was never going to change, and I was a Redskin for life. Now that they are not, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
I guess it's going to come down to...
I figured you're kind of in limbo.
I am. I mean, it's here's the thing. I'm not so attached to the name where it's like, oh God, am I upset they're changing it? Yeah, I mean, that's politics. I don't care. Football has changed a lot, but essentially it's just, it's not the same team. in my opinion. I had a lot of gear. I had, the sim. I'm not like, if they're not that, I'm never going to be a fan. I've told you that. I'm sort of in limbo right now. But I mean, if they come out with a really bad name, and I mean, it's just atrocious. It's like, am I even going to care? Because that's the thing I've had a lot of people ask me, am I going to be a fan of a new team? Am I going to be a fan of their team? Am I going to even, because I haven't even watched football in a while. And, it's not just because of that. There's just multiple reasons, but I think the only name out of the 5 they've announced that they might do that I'd be really happy with is the Hogs. Because one, me, I'm a big fan of pigs.
It salutes the offensive line that it had.
But I have a pig tattoo. Pork's my favorite meat. I grew up raising pigs. It's just there's a lot that would go to that with me. I'm a big fan of the animal itself. I don't know what's gonna happen. The other thing is like, I think if I had to change B word, I would go to an AFC team.
I think that's pretty rational. I do, because there's so much animosity between the NFC, in teams, and I'll get into this here in just a second because this is where I was going to transition to as well. But I do think that if to just share your view here and not to cut you off, to share your view here, I think if I had to switch football teams for one reason or another, I'd have to go to the other conference. I think because I've talked so much shit about the conference that the Cowboys are in, that I'd have to go to another conference.
Now, you also know this, though, too, and let me ask you this question. So, because we've talked about this in extent off the show about, the rules of how you can technically be a fan, and, we agree and disagree with certain parts of it.
Yeah.
What do you feel about the people that are fans of a player and follow the player?
I can't stand it. Like, I like players. So, for instance, I liked Peyton Manning. I thought Peyton Manning was just an absolute great quarterback. I think that he was really, really good at his craft. And is he the best quarterback ever? No. But I do think that he was good, and he was a good I don't want to say role model because you never know what somebody's skeletons are in the closet, but he was a good face of the NFL. I'll put it that way. And so I like him. I also like Troy Polamalu. He was a really cool guy to watch in his career. So I like players, but I think you almost have to, if you're going to be a fan, you're either a fan of the league or you're a fan of the team. And I really have a hard time with those that are a fan of the league, because what are you risking? What exactly happens if a team that you follow loses? Nothing, because you follow the player, in my opinion. Now, if you follow the team, you win as the team or you lose as the team. And the glory, if and when you ever get to the championship, Cowboys, you haven't been to the championship in most of my life. It just doesn't. I don't feel like you get as much back as a fan if you're just a fan of a player. Does that make sense?
No, it does, because I get in this argument a lot with people essentially because they follow Tom Brady, right? That's the big example for me is or LeBron James, whatever team he's on, I'm a fan of. Because I mean, I've only almost bought
like my friend Angela.
Right, Angela
follows LeBron.
Okay, yeah, and so they were a Heat fan, now they're a Laker fan, they're a Cavaliers fan, and then wherever he goes next, if he goes anywhere, they'll be a fan of that team.
Right.
I have a lot of Brady friends like that. I've only had one time in my life where I almost bought another jersey. For another football team, and I was a huge Chad Johnson or Chad Ochocinco fan.
Oh, Ochocinco, yeah.
But the other thing is, I just liked the Bengals jersey. I always thought it was fitting because when they were in crime all the time,
I think it's cool.
They're already in orange, so they're already ready to go to their next job if they go to jail. But two, you remember it was like the jail Blazers; they were always in trouble. But two, I like the Bengals jerseys. I've always liked him. I liked him when he was a Beaver up here at Oregon State. I liked, because I love college football, too. I follow a lot of college football. I've always liked it a little more than pro football. I think there's more to gain and lose. It's a lot more fun to watch. I think they try harder because their end goal is to get somewhere else instead of just get paid, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, it does.
And I've only traded teams once in my life. And that's
I know. You traded your teams as a part of your marriage. That was a deal.
Yeah, but also I was smart and I made a counter trade. So I got something and it wasn't just me gave up. So I'm going to get into this story if you're cool with it just for a second.
No, go ahead. That way
my wife's from New York. She's Staten Island, New York, and she's a huge New York Mets fan. And when we first met, which was a side story, you know how I know a lot of people. She went to work because we were dating long distance when she was in Vegas, and we were friends for like 10 years. And she went to her boss and was like, oh, I'm dating this guy. And he's like, oh, what's his name? She goes, Jake Medosick. And there's not a lot of Medosicks, as I said. Everybody in the country with that name's related to me. She showed him a picture. She goes, yeah, I used to coach that guy in baseball. Great baseball player. So she calls me and she goes, of course you know somebody. Well, I didn't realize how big of a baseball fan my wife was. So when she came up here, she bought us tickets to go watch the Mets versus the Mariners for 3 games, right? So she paid for the tickets, paid for everything, paid for the hotel, was going to take me on this. I've never been to a pro baseball game. I was very excited. I mean, that's the hard part growing in Vegas, right? You get to bet on every team, but you never got to go to teams because they didn't have them. And I think that's one thing that I sort of hate. I never got to see anything. So we go to Seattle, and on the bed is some New York Mets gear. And I just looked at her and laughed. I said, no, because I was a Braves fan.
Because at the time, weren't you a Braves fan?
I was a huge Braves fan because I didn't know if you knew this about me. My uncle was the coach of UNLV baseball, and he's the winningest coach in college history. And he coached Greg Maddux.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was. That's why I was, groomed as a pitcher. He coached Greg Maddux. So I got to meet Greg Maddux, meet his mom and stuff. So he was my hero growing up, right? And that's when the Braves were the Buckingham Palace of pitching. They had John Smoltz, they had Tom Glavine, they had Maddux. They were going to the World Series all the time. And the other thing is the funny thing, and you know this, I'm a Blackhawks fan, right? I was always a fan of Indian teams, and I think it's because you get that thing ingrained in you. Oh, I like that logo, and so I just followed teams like that. When I was 3, I started watching sports pretty young, and so I looked at my wife. I said, absolutely not. And she's like, well, I'm a Mets fan, so you should be too. And so I said, well, I'll make you a deal. And she's like, what's that? I was like, well, she was a New York Giants fan at the time, another NFC East team. I said, I'll trade you. I will be a Mets fan if you become a Redskin fan. So she did. And it worked out way better for me because the Mets went to World Series and the Giants, and it worked out bad for her because the Redskins have been terrible forever. We did that. But the cool part was we go to the game, right? And we're sitting there, and her favorite player was Wright, who is the third baseman. And she's like, oh, it's his birthday today. And then she's like naming all these stats. And I've never been so turned on in my life, like watching her, like how much she enjoyed baseball, but just knowing so much more than I did about a sport that I grew up playing and loved.
That's cool.
So I think it was a good trade. It worked out really well. Like I really took on the Mets, and I think I may have overcompensated a bit because I had a hard time, talking because my brother's still a Braves fan and he still gives me hell for it. Like, how dare you? Because that's almost an unsacred rule, right? You don't trade teams. But also, my wife knows this about me, and she's admitted this. Seeing how much of a hater I am, she goes, "I'm so happy I'm not a Cowboys fan or anything." She goes, "Because I don't think our marriage would have lasted." Because
it's really true. I mean,
deep. Yeah.
See, and you and I've been such great friends because we've been able to actually be rivals in so many different things, but also really appreciate the other's perspective. And one of the things that you did is you lived in Las Vegas primarily, or at least in the area primarily growing up,
right?
With a detour in northern Nevada for some college, and then you moved up to the Pacific Northwest, right? And I've spent the vast majority of my life in northern Nevada. However, I did spend quite a lot of time in southern Nevada as well. And so for me, I have a really hard time with regional fans, right? And I'm sure that you know what I'm talking about here, but regional fans in my area are like the Bay Area
Niners,
fans in California. Yeah, so Niners fans, Raiders fans, and like Golden State Warriors fans. Angela, if you're listening to this, you're my homie and everything, but I do have a hard time with those bandwagoner Giants fans, the San Francisco Giants fans. And the reason why is because I feel like when things, let me back up.
You mean like fair weather fans?
Yeah, I feel like there's more fair weather fans. So like right now, you talked about the Golden Knights, right? And the Golden Knights are having success. And so there's a lot of bandwagoner Golden Knights fans that are out there. Like I know some diehard fans and they will stick with the Golden Knights regardless. But I think for the most part that there's a lot of bandwagoner fans that are out there. And so I find that regionally. So for instance, the Golden State Warriors have had some success in the NBA. In the last decade, they've
all of a
done
sudden
really,
they showed
really
up
well.
out of nowhere. Yeah,
right. Where were these fans like back in the early '90s? Like they weren't there, right? And then like the San Francisco Giants, they're really. I mean, they were one of the first baseball teams that I liked. Although I've never officially chosen a team in the MLB. They were one of the first teams that I liked because there was so Matt Williams was their third baseman for quite a long time, and he graduated from Carson High School. And growing up in Carson City, like that was near me. You know what I mean? That was a real life experience being close to a player. And so that's kind of why I was a fan or quasi fan of the San Francisco Giants. But the 49ers, oh my man, like my dad is a 49ers fan, and he, if it's going badly, he doesn't watch. If they're doing well, he'll watch it. Right. And so I'm not criticizing my dad, but I feel like that mentality in sports is so huge that people will be a fair weather fan. And so I hate Bay Area teams, but I also hate the fair weather Bay Area fans. Like that just drives me nuts.
Same here.
And
so
I imagine you have plenty of that in the Pacific Northwest.
Well, yeah, the joke I used to always say about Duck fans, one of the teams I hate is they're just like the animal. They're fair weather. They fly south to the SEC where real football is when it's going bad for them, and then they come back when it's good and nice and sunny. I mean, It's a perfect joke, right? But the other thing is like I used to say this about Patriots fans, right? Like, how dare they all of a sudden show up? But the one thing I had to realize, is that, I don't live on the East Coast. And when I started meeting a lot of people from the Boston area and stuff, I realized that fan base is really diehard. You just don't see it over here. But I totally agree with you when it's closer to home. Because I have a lot of friends that are San Francisco Giant fans. And when they're not, like, it's the one of those sports, and I think it is because baseball has it's a long season. Like, I'll admit it, I love baseball, but I watch opening and then I watch playoffs, and I sort of fall in that lull in the middle. Because, you're playing 3-game series every night. It's like, oh, they lost 3 games. Oh, it's sad. But then you're like, okay, it's not like football where it's 17. You lose 3 games, you could be out, right? You lose 3 games in baseball. Oh, you still got 161 left. So...
Right. Exactly.
But the difference is like I'll talk to them, and if they're just not even making it anywhere, like, oh yeah, I haven't watched them in a couple years. How are they doing? And you just look at them like, how do you call yourself a fan? Like, I mean, I've had moments where life has happened and I haven't paid attention to as much. But as you were saying, like, we like rival teams, and I mean, we've kept it interesting too because we have our ongoing bet every year, which we always either pay each other or roll it over. And you know what I mean? Like, essentially, like, if the Cowboys win, I pay you, and then double or nothing. And we've done that forever. And it makes it more fun and
that's been going on for years.
But I totally agree with you. The Fayweather fans really just piss me off. And I mean, because I'd rather do this. I'd rather just not even be a fan. Hence why I said I'm not really paying attention to the Washington football team. Because, I'm not going to be that fan. Like, I was a diehard Skins fan for life, and you knew that. Even through thick and thin, I always was. We'd talk about it. But I'm not going to be a fan that just comes around when they're good, and I can't stand that either, like you.
Well, and this goes back into that, are you a fan of the player or fan of the team? I think if you're a fan of the team, you're a fan thick or thin, and you have the reaction, positive or negative, regardless of the outcome, right? And if you're not a fan of a team, I think you can be a fan of the league by saying, wow, that was a really competitive game or match or whatever the title of it is, and you can enjoy the entertainment factor of it. But I don't think that, I think that traditional fans of a team that are actually winning, that are invested in the team, regardless of the sport, have the ability to enjoy the championship or the medal or the trophy or whatever they're competing for. They have the ability to enjoy that so much more because they've been along for the ride. You know what I mean? And if they haven't been along for the ride, they haven't really earned their stripes in enjoying the championship.
Good point. Well, I don't know. Speaking of, we could beat that to death, but I mean,
right. Which is also another reason why we're probably not going to talk sports a whole heck of a lot, because obviously we're totally opinionated on that. But I'm telling you what, man, this conversation's going really good. I'm going to do this. Hold on, listen.
I heard that crack. Yeah, I know what you're doing. You're opening a beer.
Oh,
beer is good.
Yeah, dude.
Beer is good and stuff.
So I just opened up this Rogue Ales. It's a Batsquatch. It's a hazy India Pale Ale.
It's a great beer.
And let me tell you, hold on one second. Hold on. Damn, that's good.
It's a good beer. I like it.
It's a great beer.
I like IPAs. I mean, they can be a little heavy. I've had this beer. So I actually had this.
So what do you
and
like about this beer?
I like the citrus notes. You know how it's almost a little light and vibrant in the beginning, and it had a heavy finish. But this is actually a beer I like to cook with. So I also picked up this beer because me and you, just a side note to the fans, we were talking because we talk a lot about beer sometimes, and we want to be able to, since we live in different areas, sometimes talk about the same stuff. So it's not like, oh, I have this and you have that. Like, we actually tried to come together. And you sent me a long list, and I, didn't get all of them, but I did get this one. And I actually made a dish for the summer with this beer that I think
really
you would like. Yeah, so I like to make, as a chef, vinaigrettes for salads. I think they're, I'm not a big fan of super heavy creamy dressings. I don't think they're as healthy, and I mean, they don't brighten up a dish as well. So I made a bacon IPA vinaigrette with this beer.
Oh, that sounds good.
And so I tried to accentuate a few things out of it. Of course, I put the bacon in it because I think bacon's good in salad. It's good in a summer salad, especially against fruit. So what I did is I took, just basic mixed greens. I put some orange peel in it that I fried. If you put raw orange peel, like zest, it's actually really good to put in a salad. It opens up. And then some fresh herbs. But then I made a dressing with bacon fat and the IPA.
With bacon fat?
Yes, so I take the grease after I cook the bacon. So I took some of the bacon fat, and I took probably about 2 tablespoons of that, and I did about 3 ounces of pale ale, some shallot, some orange zest, honey, Dijon mustard, oil, of course, to go along with some of the bacon fat, because you don't just want to overpower it with that. Okay. And then, salt and pepper. I'll post up this recipe to our page for people to try out. But I essentially shook this up until it was emulsified, which is essentially the fats and the oil, or the oil and the vinegar coming together and blending. Like, so I don't know if you know this, Brian, when you take a salad dressing and you see it and it's all separated, if you shake it really fast, that's emulsifying. You're making the fats break down and the compounds connect, okay? And that's why it gets it'll go from those clear separated colors to a creamier, bright pink color or whatever, whatever type of oils you used in it. Sure. So I took this beer, made a bacon vinaigrette, took some mixed greens, some orange peel, some bacon, and just mixed that in a salad and ate it outside with the wife. And it was very enjoyable because the beer added its own little nuance of flavor along with everything else in it. And also the fact that, I didn't let this beer go flat in anything. It still had some of the citrus notes and everything. So it really opened up. I thought it was a great dish. And also the nice thing is if you do stuff like that, you can also drink the beer with it and sort of have it go along with the rest of the meal. But what do you
talked about? Well, I got a real quick question for you about your recipe, because you talked about putting, you had bacon, like sliced or diced bacon in it in the recipe. Is that right?
Yes.
So if you were to do something like this, could you put an additional protein in there, like chicken strips or not chicken strips, obviously, but like sliced chicken or something like that too?
Yeah, and my rule of thumb with that is I'm not one of those people, like, unless it's pizza or a sandwich, don't put same animal on animal action, if that makes sense.
Right.
So like pizza,
no, totally.
I would not put ham or pork. You could do that, but for differences, the whole point of salads is for a lot of dishes, for every little difference to come together. You don't want to overpower with one thing, especially with cured meats. So cured meats are salty and heavier, and so even pork cooked is going to be that way. So I would do this typically with chicken, something lighter, because this is a lighter dressing. You can do it with steak, but the heavier the meat,
that seems kind of heavy.
The heavier the meat, and honestly, I like steak salad, but the steak has to be hot.
When you talked about your recipe, I instantly thought, okay, this really sounds really good. Mm-hmm. But I like protein in my salad. Okay. I'm the 0 to our 10 couple. Okay, so I'm the rounder one here, right? And so I like salads, but I also like to have protein in the salad. So I'm almost thinking if you're cooking a shrimp or even a grilled chicken.
Shrimp is also, I was going to say, that's the next best pick, because you're going to go along with the citrus and everything too, and that's going to, but I was going to say my favorite protein to add to salads actually is egg.
See, yeah, I like eggs and salad.
I love
Yeah, I think
boiling
it's really
eggs,
good.
or even one of my favorite things. And a lot of people don't typically do this. You can put a poached egg on salad, but poached eggs, just being honest, unless you're really chefy and you're really into making it, it's a lot of work, a lot of cleanup compared to the results, and they're harder to make. But I love
Right.
fried eggs on salad, runny
Really? I
yolks.
don't think
Oh
I've ever
yes.
had a fried egg on
And a
salad.
lot of it's like have you ever had like fried egg on pizza? It's one of those things like you think about
I
it, you're like, yeah, that
have.
actually sounds, yeah, and it was delicious, right? But it was
Yeah.
different. You weren't thinking about it. So I like to actually put it on there because also it's another fat and it's another like almost component. When you cut open that egg
Right.
and it goes against like a nice arugula with oil on it and salt, it's one of those
See,
changing moments that just is great.
I would have never thought about that, man. I really enjoy these conversations about some of your recipes because when you describe it, it makes me think about it, and also it makes me think like I can actually do it because your recipes are actually pretty simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, fried egg on a salad. I mean, I would have never thought to do that. I have had fried egg on a pizza before. When my daughter and I went to Italy, that was one of the pizzas we had. They actually had fried eggs on the pizza, and then they also on different pizza actually had a hard boiled egg, half a hard boiled egg on the pizza. So it was pretty interesting. I really liked the taste. It wasn't terrible at all.
I
But
think salads
but
are. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no. That. I was just going to transition back to your salad and just say that it sounds really good because as I drink this beer right now, I do notice the tropical fruit taste, the mango,
Yep.
the tangerine. You get a lot of citrus out of it, but the flavor of this beer is actually really full. You have the full flavor of the hazy IPA, and I think it goes great on a summer day, especially listening to your recipe there and you describing the salad. I can definitely see how this would be great in a cold glass right next to your plate of salad as you're sitting outside on the porch.
Well, the nice thing is too when you do like things with like beer, champagne, or stuff like that in vinaigrettes, not only with the acid and everything, but it's going to cut through fats, and so adding protein to the
Right.
salad would be really good. But the other thing I like to do is the reason I like to make dressings is one, it gets you to eat more salads. I think salads are great. You know me on my Instagram, I have that eat more salads, and I post up one that I do.
Right.
But the other thing is it's actually the perfect accompaniment meal for grilling something quick. So, like you were saying, shrimp. What I would
Right.
do is I would either grill some peaches and pork, or I'd grill some shrimp or even some tomatoes, and I'd throw them in the salad. So you get that warm and cold and sort of all together, and then a cold beer next to it.
Right. Right.
Because
Absolutely. That
I think a
sounds
lot
great.
of people get afraid of, they think they get stuck in that box of a salad is cold, a steak is hot,
Right.
and a beer is cold. I'm not saying drink a warm beer, but I think you get the point I'm trying to make is you go down that road and everything's always the same. And sometimes if you
Right.
mix the two, like putting a hot, warm, runny egg on a salad, it's actually really good. And it's going to
It
change it.
actually
So
does sound pretty good.
I would say I would suggest trying out this recipe. It's quick, and as you said, I try to make them easy. I had to learn that a long time ago because I'm a classically French trained chef, and I remember I'll never forget the first episode of TV I did. I got so many complaints that I made it too hard because I made it too chefy. And at some point, it's not that you have to dumb things down, but you got to make things that people can use too. Because there's nothing worse, Brian, than when I open a recipe book or anything, because I use them too, and I look at an ingredient that I'll never use and I'll go, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make that. I'm like, oh, I got to go buy this whatever, and I'm going to use it for
Right.
one dish, and it's going to go bad, or I got to use all of it, and they don't sell it in this amount, stuff like that. Another
Right.
thing I like to put on this salad, though, and I think you'll find this weird, is bee pollen. I've been cooking a
Really?
lot with bee pollen. One, it's great for allergies, so anybody that has it, actually, it's a really good accompaniment for it. Because my favorite ingredient in the world, I don't know if you know this about me, Brian, is honey. It's natural. It's the best product on the planet. It's sweet. It goes with everything. It goes in anything. It's a natural, it's a natural sweetener, but I mean, it doesn't go bad. And so I was buying local honey at a farm like I usually do, and I saw a big jar of bee pollen, and I was like, oh, and I started talking to the guy. So I've been adding that to salads lately, and it actually has some flavor. It adds color. It adds that mystical thing, like when you put it on, and people are like, oh, what is that? It looks different. They haven't seen it. And I actually put that on this salad too, and it was very interesting and stuff. I'll actually post a picture of it when I make it again for people to see too, because I like to take pictures of food, and I think I do a decent job of it. But you eat with your eyes
we'll
too, so
definitely-
sometimes it's important.
We'll definitely get the recipe on our socials for sure, so that way all the listeners can follow and potentially try out the recipe. I'll also take a picture of the can. Now, very simple, right? I'm a simple man. I'm very easy to entertain. I bought the can of the Rogue Ale Batsquatch specifically because it's a mix between a bat and Sasquatch, and the and the picture's really cool. Mm-hmm. But what I also liked about the can is that they do give a tale about the Batsquatch that's on there. And I'm not going to read it for the viewers. You guys can probably go online and find it. But underneath the story of what a Batsquatch is, it actually says that it pairs well with white cheddar, grilled salmon, or a strawberry shortcake. And this is how you know that Jake the Hater is also Jake the Tailgater, because he did not include any of those three foods to pair with it. Instead, he took his own spin on it, and this is why, Jake, you are a professional chef. You are a specialist at your craft, and that's why I enjoy listening to this to your recipes, man. I really do, because you make them personal, you make them easy to do, but you also you do your own spin. You got your own flavor, and I like that about you.
Thanks, man. No, so what is your take, real quick, on this beer? I know you already gave a little bit of points to it, because I want to hear your review, and then I want to really quickly read this, because I like to look up reviews of things too, of a hilarious review somebody wrote about this beer. I think totally contrast yours.
So I'm going to give you a serious review on this beer. I love the tropical fruit taste. I really do. I'm not a big fruity beer guy. That's not my thing. I don't like things that are very sweet when it comes to beer, but I like the notes of the fruit that are in it. You're looking at like mango, tangerine I can taste. I also taste a little bit of orange or lemon in it. It's got a full flavor, which I really enjoy. And it's not very malty. As a matter of fact, I'd say it's probably not malty at all. From a bitter standpoint, it's a little bitter, but not very much. And then from a hop standpoint, I think it's got the right amount of hops in here. You can taste the hops, but it's not overbearing, which you typically find with an IPA. And so overall, I kind of think that that's really good that way.
Okay, so I'm gonna read this little story. I think this is funny. This is by David Beatty on Google Reviews. Now, when I read reviews, there's two that I like: the 5 stars and the 1 stars, which are essentially the only people that leave reviews, right? The 4-star and the 3-star people are just people that just wanted to write something and they couldn't really.
You can never satisfy a 4-star person.
But the 1-star, this guy wrote, "Imagine the cryptid Batsquatch deep in the forests of the Appalachian Mountains. He's trying to homebrew a mountain ale for his cryptid buddies coming over for some holiday. The hairless meat sacks celebrate this every year. The only thing that has to flavor this brew are supple ferns of pine trees surrounding him, a pot, and some hot ashes left in an abandoned campsite. If you can imagine this, you know what this beer tastes like." Now, I get it. I think the review's funny. The problem is, I don't think he actually drank this beer. I think somebody either played a prank on him, as we went earlier, or he just wanted to be hilarious and write this and looked at the can. Because I'm like you. Sometimes I'll buy a beer just because of the logo. And that's like Notion Brewing right now is the big one. They have amazing cans. I don't think their beer's the greatest, but I'll buy it every time just because I'm interested. Like, oh, that looks awesome. Like Gigantic's another one. Gigantic Brewing, their bottles are awesome. But
well, I went and I bought a slew of cans, and I sent you several of them as we were preparing for this show, just to see if you can get any in the Pacific Northwest. And obviously, Rogue Ales is up there, so it was pretty easy for you to get. But I do tend to buy beer based on its cans if I've not had it before. Typically, if I've had it before and I'm familiar with it, then I don't really care what the can looks like. But if I'm trying a new beer, I really enjoy the can artwork and even the story that's on there, if there is a story on there. And this can is I mean, it's pretty awesome. And I listening to that guy's review, I don't think that he drank it. It does have some pine in it, but you can't really taste it over the citrus, if that makes sense. So It's, take it or leave it. I think he's trying to be comedic, and I appreciate that. I really do. But if you're trying to be comedic on a review, at least give it a 5-star. You know what I mean? Don't bring down the rating for your shot at comedy. Like, let's kind of edify each other here a little bit as businesses and give a 5-star shout out if you're going to be facetious a little bit. But maybe he did, and maybe that's truly what he thought. I don't know.
I'd be interested to see what somebody would write a 5-star review on our socials or a 1-star.
I don't think we're going to get a 5-star. I really don't.
I wouldn't mind
think.
the 1-star, though.
Oh man, if I'll tell you what, for those of you that are listening, if you have an opportunity to review us on Facebook or Google or anything like that, and you're comedic about it, and it's funny, we'll shout you out. There's no problem at all. I'll read it out. We'll shout it out. We'll have a good time with it too, because that's a good way to get your brand out there. And this is a new gig for the both of us, and we're enjoying it so far. So, with that, Jake, I do want to shout out 2 special ladies in my life this week before we end the show. Neither of them are probably going to listen to this podcast, but they're both important to me. And first off, I want to shout out my goddaughter. So my goddaughter, Isabella, graduated today from elementary school. She will enter middle school next year. That makes me feel so freaking old, by the way. So she's class of 2028. So good job, Izzy. And can't wait to see what you have left in store. And obviously, your mom and dad are fans of the podcast. So hopefully, as they hear this, they'll let you know that we love you and I'm rooting for you. So, but finally, a huge shout out for my daughter Rebecca. Rebecca is the absolute light of my life. She made me into the dad that I needed to be. I wasn't really ready to be a dad when she was born. I didn't know how, and I've piecemealed my way through it. And I absolutely love this kid. She's awesome, and she is graduating high school this weekend. I literally have no clue how that happened. So she's class of 2021. She is going to get ready to go to college, and holy shit, Jake, I have a daughter in college. Can you believe that? That's just absolutely crazy.
Congrats to her.
So,
and, congrats, yeah. It's awesome.
Absolutely. So I'm very proud of these 2 young ladies. Glad I have a chance to be in their lives, and of course, I'm their biggest cheerleader moving forward. So lastly, I want to make sure that for those of us that are listening right now, make sure you follow our podcast on all the socials at Bleach Bros Pod. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just give us a like, give us a shout, follow our content as we move some things forward. Also, our podcast is now streaming on many of your favorite podcast sites, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and more. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and share our content, and make sure to tell your friends to get bleached. So with that, Jake, what do you got for me?
Thanks for the dirty talk, everybody, as always, and come back and get sanitized.